is now. A new year, a new era.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you guys are in the world. Welcome in for North America, Europe, Canada round 4. We're here. This is the Division 2 race. The Division 1 race was done and dusted. We did that race at 3 o'clock, and boy, that was an insane Division 1 race. We do have a full quali going on right now. The full quali has started for Division 2. So the drivers are going ahead, getting their first laps up and going. And as always, for Division 2, you have me, your host, GameHawk, here, as well as always, the one, the only, the Wildcat.
What's going on? Oh, it's a great day for racing.
I would say that I would agree, but we'll see depending on how much rain we get, because I mean, you just got done with the Division 1 race. I don't know if you necessarily call that was a fantastic race by any standards.
Standard? No, because I mean, given Division 1 and how tough and tight-knit it can be, Canada's not necessarily a track that I get along with very well. Canada doesn't get along with me, so the weather didn't cooperate either. So it kind of was just all shades of screwy, and yeah, I'm glad it's over and done with, and on to Baku next week, which I feel a lot better about. And yeah, I'm just glad to be away from Canada at this point, you know.
I mean, I do feel that Canada is actually one of my toughest tracks as well, just because I don't know how to, I'm not that great at tire management, and I'm not that good at the high speed corners or like the high speed tire corners. Unfortunately, Canada requires you to deal with both. So that's just, Canada is also not one of my best tracks. But I mean, if we want to go through Div 1 now, as the drivers are still doing their out laps and getting their first laps of the day. I mean, Division 1, it was a crazy race. We originally started dry, and then it basically drizzled the rest of the race, which kind of we had a moment. Oh my goodness. The Ferrari of Howell, I don't know if necessarily he was trying to get out of the way, but CJ accidentally hit him. And that's going to be interesting, as CJ's going to have to pit, and he did get a penalty, but man, that was a crazy impact. But anyways, back to Division 1. Basically drizzled the whole race. Nothing else really. I mean, it was interesting to see what was going to happen, because you saw so many people that had done the hard tires switch to the intermediates, and I mean, you could probably agree that it was kind of a weird race.
It honestly, a weird race doesn't even put it into perspective, because myself and Meraki Don were honestly comparing apples to apples before the race with strategy and trying to sort out what was going to work the best. But given, seeing that there was rain developing on, so knowing that, hey, there's a possible chance we could see a bit of wet weather. Is our slicks going to hold? Is it going to stay just dry enough for the slicks to hold in the wet, or Inter's going to be the best? And I mean, it honestly became a very confusing game. So it honestly, it kind of I mean, as we saw, sometimes just being the cleanest driver, not going over track limits too much, can often pay off and deliver the victory at this point. So, I mean, I mean, I had my own fair share of little oopsies, but for the most part, kept it on track and brought it home. Didn't crash out, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and I mean, actually, speaking about track limits, I mean, we have to address the finale of that race. I mean, you probably didn't necessarily see it, just because of all the craziness that was happening. You probably didn't necessarily catch everything that happened, but what ended up happening was we had the battle for the lead between the Williams and Vide, and they were fighting for the lead with 2 laps to go. They collide going into turn 1, and there wasn't any damage between the 2 cars, but because of the aggressive braking, I believe it was the rear left. Yeah, the rear left of Vide, his intermediate tire burst and punctured. So then he went all the way to the end of the race on a punctured tire, but then the Williams had to pit to avoid a puncture himself. So he pit, immediately went on to the inters. Vide took the lead with a punctured tire. And then Alizzi in the Haas took the lead. Money in the Racing Bull was in second place. They fight all the way to the end. And then on the very last corner, Alizzi got another time penalty. So then Money in the Racing Bull won the race. I mean, if you guys get a chance, both you, Wildcat, and anyone in the stream chat, if you guys get a chance, you guys need to go back and watch the finale of the Div1 race. It was just, it was pure cinema. I mean, that's the best way to describe it.
I mean, honestly, that sounds like a magical, like a cinema-esque thing. Like, I mean, it's yeah. Like, I mean, I'm kind of, and not gonna lie, I'm looking at the weather right now, and Div2 seems to got the lucky straw because it looks like we're pretty sunny through Q1 and Q2. They may get some wet weather toward the end of Q3, but I'm a little sad right now because looking at these times, like these, you've got Sed putting in a 10.5, and then you got Nishka with a 10.7, and looking at my measly little 10.6 in Div1 toward the end, granted it got wet, so I wasn't able to, try to get, good track evolution and maximize the grip potential. So it's interesting, and I feel a little bit bad about the fact that Div2 is already, setting what is essentially Div1 times.
To be completely fair, I mean, I do agree with you that they have dry conditions. They have a little bit better conditions to deal with. I'm curious to see if maybe we see a little bit more rain toward the end of not only Q3, but also going into the race. But I agree. So far, we've seen very good times. The top 3 leaders of Sed, Nishka, and Bruiser, all with 110 times. Tinzo and Barry, both McLarens, are in P4 and P5 with a minute 11s. And I mean, so far, pretty close times throughout the whole grid if you really look through it.
Absolutely, and I mean, looking further down, you have N-Guy, you have your boy JC, Bookie, and the Governor, who haven't set times yet, but Barry and Sed have both said they feel confident in their times and tired from the session already, which I feel like Sed, he might be in the safe zone, but as far as Barry, that I feel could possibly change if these guys really start to fire in these laps toward the end of Q1.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. And I mean, it just always will be interesting to see because of what Canada is basically. And actually, the Governor will improve up into P5. So actually a very good lap from him. So he'll go up into the top 5. But I agree that I think one of the things you need to address, I guess if you want to call it the elephant in the room, Canada and track limits is just it's brutal, and I don't think anyone can ever say that it's not brutal. And I think that not only in the race do you end up getting a penalty, but one moment of going off track and qualifying could completely derail what you want to do in qualifying. And completely, I mean, even if you get off track limits in Q1, that could possibly end your entire qualifying just because you may not get another chance. So I mean, it's like I don't envy the drivers that they're having to deal with the track limits.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's absolutely. I'm not envying the track limits, but at the same point, Canada. I mean, if you can exploit the track limits and you hit the corners the right way, especially through especially through that turn 1, 2, and then you come up on that first actual chicane into 3, 4. If you hit the corners the right way and you're not afraid to put that car up on the curb, ride the curb, be a curb rider basically. If you're not afraid to do it, I mean, you can really do a lot of damage. So I mean, if you're feeling confident enough to do it, then by all means send it. I mean, there's also a lot of time gained for those who are brave enough to get, almost too close to the wall of champions on corner exit. And again, with turn 4, 5 on exit right through that chicane, if you're not afraid to get close to the wall, I mean, you can exploit a lot of lap time right through those couple of corners. So it just kind of depends. And then you come to the hairpin. Some tend to open the hairpin by going as wide as possible and then coming close to the curb and then exiting wide, where often it's easier to just go a little bit deeper in the corner and then kind of make the car pivot and rotate hard by going deep, because you're gaining lap time, but you're also opening that potential to get more straight line speed, especially down that back straightaway where we can see a lot of overtakes happen in that chicane leading up to the wall of champions. So it kind of is driver dependent for Canada, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot of give and take. I feel like Canada that is a lot of trying to push the boundaries as far as you can, but don't you go over it, because then it can really come back to bite you. And actually, talking about the Wall of Champions, funny enough, I'm actually very happy that we all predicted how many crashes we would see at the Wall of Champions. And I predicted 1, Verstappen predicted 2, and then Chaz predicted 0. And we actually did have 1 crash at the Wall of Champions, so I did technically win that prediction, and I pat myself on the back, because it means nothing, but at least I get brownie points in commentating. do we have any sort of a prediction? Because I'm gonna stay on my hot streak and say that I do think we're gonna have at least one crash at the Wall of Champions, but I want to hear what your prediction is.
Honestly, it's Div2. These guys are Div1's a bit. Div1's a wily bunch. They're wily. They're aggressive. They can get quite indecisive and unpredictable at times. Whereas Div2 is a bit more predictable, and these guys tend to be a lot cleaner and not as aggressive through corners. So honestly, I'm gonna say no crashes through the Wall of Champions for Div2, because I feel like these guys, they have that bit of patience in them that Div1 doesn't, of not trying to create a gap where there isn't one, or being a bit more patient about where they go for the gap to make an overtake.
Well, I'm going to be very interested to see which prediction is correct. And if you guys are in the chat, you guys can go ahead and put your own predictions. So right now we have me, who I think that there will be a crash of the Wall of Champions. Wildcat is on the side that there won't be. So I guess we'll have to go ahead and see. Just about 2 minutes left here in the first qualifying. This is a full qualifying. So right now, I believe it is Verstappen and Bookie who are currently in the drop zone that it'll be P17 and P16 that will be eliminated. And you can see that a majority of the top part of the grid has retired, and I don't think that they can get knocked out. And actually, Bookie is about to complete a lap. We'll see where he places, and he moves up into P10. So that will actually move N-Guy down into the drop zone, and then Verstappen is in P17. So far in Q1, maybe a little bit of drama. We'll see, because N-Guy looks like he's been fast, but maybe not fast enough, because now we're getting down to the last minute.
Absolutely, and I mean, Ed Guy and John are now they're on their outlaps right now. So I'm probably gonna kind of take a look and ride along. Let's see who's farther. So it looks like N Guy's already firing up his, as he's getting ready to launch that lap to try and dislodge and get himself out of the drop zone. So I mean, and honestly, John's on an outlap as well, as he's gonna try and defend and keep N Guy from knocking him out of qualifying. But suspension has already said, you know what, I don't think these guys are gonna be able to dislodge me, so I'm retiring from the session already. So it's kind of an interesting little bit of a bunch right now as far as what these guys are looking to do in Div 2.
And actually, Suspension actually joined the chat, and he actually said that his time is a personal best that he's ever set in Canada. So maybe a little bit of that confidence, or maybe a little bit of the confidence showing there. Oh, and maybe we'll see. That was a little bit of not a great turn through the hairpin for N-Guy, as qualifying will end. So we can see N-Guy is the last one to try and get out of the drop zone. It doesn't look like John's going to be able to get it. He doesn't invalidate, so now we'll see if N-Guy is going to get it. He's close, and he will. He'll move him into P12, and he knocks out John DT, as John DT didn't have enough time. Actually, Dr. J is still on a lap, so we'll see if maybe he can actually improve here in qualifying one. No, he'll back off, so that probably will end qualifying. So great job there by N-Guy to get out of the drop zone, and a great lap there.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, honestly, I mean, he did a pretty good job there, and into that lockup where it could have hurt him, it actually sent him in there's that line I was talking about through the hairpin. That lockup actually sent him a bit deeper into the hairpin than he probably would have wanted. In turn, it actually helped him with the straight line coming down to the final chicane through the Wall of Champions. So he was actually able to capitalize and carry that momentum all the way, propelled him into Q2. So I'm pretty sure he's well and truly happy about that.
Yeah, definitely. Very happy about that indeed. So that means that John DT and Verstappen are our two drivers who are eliminated from Q1. And I mean, so far it does look like the grid is a little bit closer. We did see in Div 1 that Div 1 overall was actually very, very tight-knit group when it was dry conditions. So I am curious to see how it will look once we get to the race and as we continue in qualifying. And actually looking at the chat and talking about our prediction, Wildcat, we actually have Illyrian from the Division 1 saying that he believes there are going to be 3 crashes into the wall of champions specifically. There is another Keegan who also says that he agrees with you, that he does not think there's going to be a crash into the Wall of Champions. So maybe a little bit split down the middle talking about the Wall of Champions. I mean, as long as the cars don't split in half when they hit the wall, I guess that benefits them the most. But as we continue here into not Division 2, qualifying 2, like we said before, John DT and Verstappen are the 2 eliminated drivers, and that leaves 15 more for qualifying 2.
And just taking a look here, so it looks like Mr. Koopa, Spirit, and one other have penalties going into the race, so these guys have to do the absolute most in qualifying. And they're looking. If I had to guess, they're going to be quite edgy going through qualifying to try and maximize as much as they can to try and mitigate that issue. Because as we know, and we have seen in past races in the NAEU, not just this season, but in previous seasons, grid penalties can hurt a driver. But if you're, if you have the pace, the racecraft, and the patience, you can use that as a fuel to kind of, it gives you something to grind at the entire race of, getting back to where you should have been from the start and possibly even going a little bit farther. So that's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be quite interesting indeed. And I believe that I know that the one person that had it was CJ, I believe, in the Kickstarter, who had the grid penalty. I'm not entirely sure if any of the other drivers has that, so we'll keep an eye on that as qualifying goes on. And I'm kind of curious to see what the times are, because I mean, you can see in Q1 that usually that's kind of a lot of warming up and getting acclimated to the track, and then Q2 is a lot more about pushing and getting the fastest laps possible. So I'm kind of curious to see how the drivers are going to do. I'm kind of curious to see what the lap times are going to look like, because I mean, ultimately, obviously you want to move on to Q3. If rain is on the way in Q3, I'm kind of curious if there's any drivers who are already looking forward to that, saying, I'm not necessarily excited about that.
Absolutely. I'm just taking a ride on board with CJ at this moment as he fires in the start of the first flying lap of Q2, and he looks pretty good through turns 1, 2. So I think he's looking to make amends for his grid penalties that he's got to have to do later, as he's a bit conservative coming through the first chicane, getting close to that wall. He doesn't take near as much a chance, but then gets up on the curb with no issue through the next chicane. So he's kind of picking and choosing where he's comfortable with exploiting for that maximum lap time.
Yeah, and we'll definitely see how all of this will shake up, as I am also following along with CJ. I mean, he's going to be the first one to cross the line, barring if his lap gets invalidated. So we'll see where he places in terms of pace as more people cross the line. And probably, and he invalidated. I shouldn't have said anything. I commentated, cursed him. I apologize, CJ. You could probably blame me for that I commentator cursed. And then he invalidated on the last turn. So actually, I think it's his teammate. Yeah, his teammate does with a 1:13.2, and then Nemesis in the Alpine does a 1:11. So now, yeah, and you can see all the times coming through now, and we'll see what the overall speed is.
Absolutely, and you would think, looking at these times, you've got Harold with an 11.2, Barry with an 11.3, and then Project Nemesis with an 11.4, and they all came in rapid succession. So if I had to guess, these guys were somewhat enough to each other that they probably had a bit of a toe to where they were, right up on. They were all pretty. They were where Harold was actually the biggest benefit of that toe. So if there's something to be said about the toe around here, for those who still have their teammate alive in Q2, that could be something. There could be something to be had about that, as Tenzo goes and blasts in the first sub 11 of Q2 with a 10. With a 10-18, with a 10, with an 8, a 10-8-11. Oh, good lord! I'm tired. My words out.
Olga, I've sympathized with you. I had moments like that as well. And actually, talking about the team game. I mean, in Q2, you probably still have a majority of the teams, and having a total of 17 drivers, we still see a lot. But I'm kind of curious to see what teams will go into Q3, considering that we do see a lot of the teams. But I wonder if anyone is going to have more issues. I mean, think about Nemesis. I mean, he's the only Alpine. Dr. J, he's the only Williams, so he doesn't have maybe the same kind of thought process dealing with a teammate or using a teammate's toe. So I guess that will be, I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting to see who makes it through to Q3 and see if maybe the toe can play a bigger factor.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm looking, it was a bit of an interesting one. Not sure what happened with Ngai there. I think he might have just kind of cooked it on the way after he finished his lap, because he was cutting the grass through turn 1 and 2 there. So, but he finished his lap and set a 13.5. So I'm pretty sure he's a bit relieved that he was able to recover that and not put the car in the wall, and he lives to fight another day, head back into the pits and reset. So that's a bit interesting. And CJ actually went back into the pits and chose not to try and pull another lap on those softs. So as we know, with Canada, it's a bit of a short track. It's a short track, so you can manage. If you do enough, you can pull a lap or two, maybe 3 out of one set of tires. I know in Div 1, I personally opted for 3 laps on medium tires in Division 1. And that was just on medium tires, where I kind of progressively stepped up how much pace I was throwing at them. So it also kind of gave the tires time to get in the window I wanted, so they would actually, offer the most grip. So I mean, it's a bit interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting indeed, and I definitely agree with you there. And actually, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the Drivers' Championship. I did wish that I had talked about it during the original Div 1 race. I didn't really get to talk about it too much because, yeah, everything's going crazy. Actually, as said, sets the fastest lap. He actually misses turn 1. I guess he was carrying so much speed that he missed turn 1. But he does set the fastest lap. The fastest lap will count with a 1 minute 10.5, and he will sit in Q2 pole. But talking about the Drivers' Championships, currently right now, Harold in the Aston Martin currently has the Drivers' Championships in first place with 70. Steven Sedgwick, or Sed, who just set the fastest lap, has 42. And then Nishka in P3 with 37. Bruiser in 4th. It actually is tied for 4th with Barry. And then with 36 points, and then 30, 27, 25 points down the order. So far, Harold has a very sizable margin. But other than that, a lot of these drivers are really close in terms of championship.
Absolutely. And as you were speaking on it, Nishka went and fired in the fastest lap of the session with the 10.2 by just a hair over 2.5 tenths of a second. So Nishka's not necessarily too much messing around at this point. He's looking to make a statement, and I mean, as we saw from the Red Bull crew, these guys were looking very dominant through qualifying a couple rounds ago in China, and so I think Nishka's trying to actually get into this fight.
And that's funny that you mentioned China, because they were dominant through China. Then they went into Q3 and it was wet. It was a wet qualifying. So maybe history repeating itself, possibly, if it rains here in Q3. I hope that I'm not commentating cursing the whole thing, but it would be interesting to see. And actually said will retire, so he feels confident enough in his time.
Absolutely, and that is quite an interesting thing, that there is that rain. As I'm looking at the forecast here, that rain is still lurking for Q3. Toward middle to end of Q3. So these guys, if they're making it into Q3, for those that do, they're gonna have to be on it from the opening lap of Q3 to get the absolute best in, because once the track starts getting wet, as as you know, I kind of found out in Div 1, I tried to squeak that last little bit before the track got, to a point where the softs were still gonna grip, but the time wasn't gonna be any better as as that rubber laid down was getting washed out. So I mean, you kind of gotta be on it from the jump going into Q3. So I mean, looking at the top 10 right now, it's kind of gonna be these guys are gonna have to be on it.
Yeah, and I mean, Canada is one of those tracks that you have to be, I mean, you have to be on it every single turn, every single lap, just because this is it's a very it's a technical track. I mean, there's nothing really else to say about Canada, that it's a very technical track. And I mean, with the track limits as well, that it really forces the drivers to focus every single lap, because you saw in Div 1 that penalties can make all the difference. And I mean, it certainly made the difference in terms of who won the race, just because the last track limit, literally getting track limits on the very last turn, resulted in second place ending up winning. So I mean, I agree that this is just the type of track that you have to focus every single turn, and you just have to bear down basically. And I mean, yeah, but I will say though that for the leaders, you're probably feeling very, very good and confident that if you're setting 110 times, that you're probably very happy with those times, considering the rest of the grid has been mostly setting 111-ish times.
Absolutely. So I mean, it's kind of I mean, whereas you got drivers like Nishka and Said who have they're kind of hitting that mid to low minute 10 range, and then you've got guys like Barry and Tenzo who are teammates, ironically, who arguably might be the strongest driver pairing as far as teams in Div 2. With you've got both McLarens in the top 5, and they're hitting the high minute 10s, but then from there everybody else is running in the 11s down to the 12s. It's crazy because these guys put those kind of times in, but then when it gets come race time, it's like these guys who set those slower qualifying times are still right there with the guys who were setting times toward the sharp end. So it kind of shows some guys they may not lay down the fastest qualifying lap, but under race conditions, they're still relatively quick to be able to fight and work their way up the grid every race.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, speaking of the conditions, we talked about in Div 1, we originally talked about how, I mean, the conditions do playing a factor. And I mean, they can play a factor in qualifying because obviously you want to set the fastest lap possible. But then they really come into a factor because, I mean, you saw in Div 1, it basically drizzled the whole race. So it wasn't wet enough to just go straight to the intermediates, but it also was definitely not a dry track. So the conditions definitely end up playing a factor. And it's just kind of a curious situation, just because you want to see what the drivers are definitely capable of. And that they're going to push as hard as possible regardless of the conditions. So it just gets interesting to see how all of it's going to shake up with all the different factors coming together. And actually, with just about a minute and a half left, the governor actually joins his teammate, and he does a 1 minute 10.5, and he's only a couple hundredths off of Said. So both Red Bulls having very strong showings here. I mean, actually the two McLarens as well. The two McLarens having a strong showing as well, and even Bookie now goes up into P4 with his time as we go sub 1 minute. And the other Racing Bull, his teammate was on a lap and then he spun and he hit his wing, so he won't get another qualifying lap in. Very unfortunate. So, but we'll see if he's safe. Right now, Howell, Dr. J, N-Guy, Suspension, and Koopa are currently in the drop zone. So With 30 seconds left, this is the absolute last chance for these drivers. Isn't that right now? Harold is in the drop zone as well in P10.
That's a bit interesting. Harold being on the bump, and he's not leaving the pits to attempt to make that. And how Spirit is on a lap, but it doesn't look like he's improving anything spectacular. Although he did have a faster Sector 1 in comparison to Harold on his last lap. So, I mean, he possibly could catch and dislodge Harold, who is the current championship leader, out of qualifying here.
So now we'll see as Howell comes across the line, and he doesn't. He misses out by a 10th. So Harold is still safe for now. Bruiser will go into the pit and end his qualifying. The last one is Dr. J. We'll see where he places. It's going to be close. He will improve on his time, but not enough. So now the very last driver is Mr. Koopa, who's coming through Sector 3. The very last driver to try and improve. I'm not entirely sure where he's placing right now. He has the DRS and he has a little bit of battery left. He has to overcome roughly a second and a half. We'll see if he does as he comes across the line, and we'll see where he places. He does improve, but it's not enough. He will remain where he is, and we have our grid set. Harold barely squeaked it out.
He did, honestly. His opening lap, he honestly just put his faith in it and just said, you know what, I'm just gonna do this and then hope it sticks. And Harold he's probably doing it as a way to save tires for the race at this point, because as we know, granted, the soft tire around Canada with the rear burning as quick as it does, I don't see how that's gonna really help, but maybe Harold knows something we don't.
So our 5 eliminated drivers is Howell in the Ferrari, Dr. J in the Williams, N-Guy in the Mercedes, and then Suspension in the Kick Sauber, and then Koopa in the Haas. So our top 10 is set, and as we load in, this is the question. How much rain are we gonna see? And I think that's kind of the big question that we're waiting for. And it looks like it's dry for right now at the start of Q3. It looks like it's dry, so we'll see if that sticks. I already know the drivers are hoping for that. I already know the drivers are probably praying that it stays dry.
Absolutely, and I'm looking at the forecast right now, and these drivers, they may have gotten graced with a bit of luck, as the forecast it's being foreshadowed that there's rain on the horizon within the next 15 minutes or so. So these guys, they may have gotten a blessing here in Q3 to be able to actually show what they got, and who knows, maybe that we could see that we might be able to actually see that Red Bull pairing actually somewhere near the front end of this grid today, and be able to kind of own from China, as it looks like pretty much everybody has cleared out to get those first runs done, with the exception of Ced, who is still in the pits at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know if I was what I was necessarily expecting. I was not expecting almost all 10 drivers to immediately leave, because I mean, the dirty air will definitely hurt. And actually, if you're right now, the 2 people that benefit the most from this is Nemesis and Nishka, because they're far enough ahead that they don't have to worry about the dirty air. But you can see the absolute train that is behind them, and I'm curious to see how this is going to affect their times.
Absolutely, and we've got, who do we have leading this charge right now? I think the Alpine.
And then we'll see how this all benefits. Maybe there's a little bit enough space for CJ to not worry about Nishka's dirty air, but we'll see how it all ends up panning out. And actually, Ced also left the pits as well. So now all 10 drivers are out on their laps, and I feel like, I mean, they all left really, really early, and we didn't really see, well, we didn't have a full qualifying in Div 1. I don't know if I've ever seen something like this in Div 1 when we've had full qualifying.
And it looks like the governor and Bookie have invalidated corner cutting. So they're going to have to, looks like they've got to abandon their laps and go again. As Project Nemesis, however, he is absolutely he's on a rapid flyer and looking very clean through every corner here so far to kind of set the tone for Q3. And one thing I noticed at the end of Q2 is that the entire top 10 was within a second of each other. The entire top 10 was covered by 1 second. So these guys it's going to be quite the tight qualifying, as Nishka goes and piles in a minute 10.1, which is faster than his Q2 time. So Nishka's making a statement of intent at this point that he is here and means business.
Yeah, I was about to say that was an insanely good time. And I mean, you can see, you were talking about 1 second covered the whole top 10. Roughly, well, yeah, just about a second covers P1 to P4 right now, in which I think Barry was maybe on a little bit of a slow lap as to why he's a little bit more separated. But I mean, yeah, Nishka right now on provisional pole with a 110. Never mind, take that back. As said, has the overall fastest time we've seen today with a 109.921. An absolutely screaming flying lap, and he now has provisional pole over Nishka.
Somebody get the contract out, because said is laying down statements of intent that he is here and looking to be an absolute problem. As we know, Harold under race pace, Harold is quite the problem under race pace, and he can actually get away from the grid quite well once he gets into clean air. But it's looking right now that he's got quite the problem and said. And so it's gonna that's quite an interesting one. Whereas Barry on his first lap sets a minute 13.3 and is back in the pits. So I'm guessing he might have actually gone out on old tires just to kind of get a feel for the grip and see where things are gonna lay so far.
Yeah, I do agree. And actually, Bruiser is on a flying lap right now, as he's the only driver other than Zagovernor who has not set a time, and Zagovernor is on his out lap right now as well. So we'll see. I'm assuming that Barry will change his tires and be back out, so we'll see what time he sets. We talked about it in Q1. So far this grid is very tight knit, and I am maybe a little bit I agree with you that Harold has shown that he has really good race pace. I'm curious to see how much of this race pace is going to carry over for all the drivers, just because of how close they all are together in qualifying.
Absolutely. Because this is going to be, this is shaking up to be quite the interesting thing, and Bruiser actually pulls into the pits. So, not sure what's going on there, but he's probably looking to just say screw it, and he's just going to wait until that last to make another lap, as Sed goes and sets an even faster time with a 109.7. He is not messing around here.
I do think that Sed, he's trying to get into Div 1. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to show up and just say, hey, any of you get Div 1 guys watching, come sign me. That's really what it feels like.
I feel that's what he's looking at this point, and his team principal, who was not present in the Div 1 race today due to some other, prior commitments. His team principal is probably going to be looking at that, and should he, need to find a reserve for Div 1 in the future, he's probably going to be going straight to Seb to get him into Div 1 just to kind of see what he can do and give him some experience at the Div 1 level.
Yeah, and I do think that is definitely a possibility. I'm kind of curious to see what Nishka's response is going to be. I mean, he 110.1 is absolutely nothing to sneeze at, and I'm very curious to see if Nishka is going to improve on that time, because I mean that's already a very fast lap as well.
Oh, this is going to be quite the interesting lap for Nishka. I'm pretty sure after seeing what Said did, he left the pits with an intent of, oh, that's what you're going to do? Now, mind you, I'm looking at the tire selections here, and Said did 3 laps on one set of soft tires and set the fastest lap of the session. So Nishka being on fresh softs, he's got to respond with something heavy that puts pressure on Said to have to absolutely send it or make a mistake on the final lap. And as he's getting just a slight toe from the Racing Bull toward the end of the lap, not sure if that may actually aid him quite well here.
Oh, and it does!
As Nishka does set a 1 minute 9.601.
I mean, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say that he might actually get help from that toe. Obviously, he did, as now he sets the new fastest lap with a 109.6. And I guess now the pendulum is going to swing back the other way, and Said did put on a fresh set of softs. It's raining. Actually, just now, looking back at the camera, it is raining now. I don't think Nishka could have set that time any better.
Oh, Nishka knew something, because that right there may have actually just sealed the deal. And Bruiser, unfortunately, has not been able to put up any kind of lap time. And anybody who is on a lap at this point, it's pretty much you're on your final lap now. So Said not getting out when he did, it could have actually hurt him from getting the track at its grippiest before the rain comes and washes it clean.
And actually, Bruiser will get the lap in, but that will hurt him as the rain hits. And actually, I think Nishka was waiting for that, and Nishka retires. CJ will also retire. So a lot of these drivers who had set their lap times are now retiring. Said went out on the soft tires. He's on his out lap right now. We'll see if he goes through with it on those soft tires, but I'm very curious to see, because the rain, it's coming down. Actually, you know what's funny is that it's actually coming down harder than it did during the entire Div 1 race. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen if Said is going to choose to go through with it or not.
That will be quite interesting, honestly. I mean, me personally, I know I did I just said screw it at the end of the lap and in the pit, but it's a gutsy decision, as you see most of the grid retiring at this point. So it's kind of these guys have already figured, hey, it's not even worth the risk. So let's just let's just go ahead and prepare for the race. As Said kind of, he kind of weaves in disappointment.
So he goes into the pits as well. And actually cut to the governor. The governor is missing his whole front wing, so maybe he slid off the track due to the rain. But yeah, I think that's going to end qualifying. I don't think Nishka could have set his lap time any perfectly. He set it, and then immediately after setting that lap, it started raining, and there's only 14 seconds left here in qualifying anyway. Wow, I'm shocked. I don't know about you, Wildcat. I'm shocked at what happened here, what we just witnessed.
I'm getting vibes of I'm honestly getting vibes of what was that, Brazil 2024, I think, when we saw a Haas stick it on pole. Granted, it was for a sprint race, but a Haas stuck it on pole in Brazil because of timing and utilizing the weather to their advantage. So, I mean, Nishka's a pretty smart driver, and he probably keeps his eyes glued to, weather forecasting and, being very smart about when he goes out for his laps. So he probably just timed it right to the last second to actually get that lap fired in.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if he really could have had better timing as you were talking about. But now we head on to the race. Maybe we'll see if it's raining or sunny. Wow. I don't think we could have a more sunny day. Definitely the opposite of what we saw in Div 1.
Oh, absolutely. And this is going to be quite interesting as I'm being told and working on it. I think N guy somehow got disconnected, so I just sent him an invite to get him session.
Yeah, I can make sure that everyone is in. And I believe... I don't have him added. So you're going to have to help me out. But now we'll see if it remains an entirely dry race, because knowing Canada, you can never say it's an entirely or no completely for sure. But I'm curious to see what the strategies are going to be, because in the dry, this track eats up and spits out your tires like it is no one's business. And we are about to find out, as it is 5 lights on and we are underway here in Canada. And immediately it looks like it was a great start, as Sed is going to retain the lead for now, as he's going to hold on. Everyone going through turn 1s and 2. And now there is a caution. I think someone spun. Sed will retain the lead ahead of Nishka. He got the launch that he needed. And we'll see, as now all of a sudden Tenzo is going to be on the back of Nishka, as now the McLaren is trying to catch up. And so far the grid is already filing into a 1x1, and there was a Williams that went wide. It was John DT. He's falling down the grid. He went too far wide at one of the turns, and he'll fall down into P13. And that is really going to hurt him. Actually, the biggest gainer, Verstappen qualified P17. He is now up into P9. I don't know. That's probably on record the best start. And now we have a kick Sauber. Oh, he will get going again, so he is back. But it will deploy a VSC. So a virtual safety car deployed for the incident. But man, that was a crazy start.
Yeah, that was quite interesting, as the governor actually took quite the tumble, falling down 11 positions at one point, and now he's recovered 3 positions, but the governor got completely start. Not sure what happened there. Got tangled by House Spirit's also up by 4 positions. Verstappen is absolutely the biggest gainer here, was gaining 7 positions off the start. So he got something absolutely right there. And Suspension is in the pit. Not sure if he is retiring, which I think he may have. And there may be some debris on the track, which may have triggered that virtual safety.
Actually, green flag is now back underway. Suspension does get back onto the track, so he is still racing. But that was still, I mean, I agree. We saw some huge tumbles and some huge gainers. I mean, yeah, I agree that whatever Verstappen did something perfectly. And he gained all those positions, and now he's in the top 10. So far, Sed looks like he has the faster race pace. DRS is now enabled, so we'll see if that makes a big difference. As you can see, talking about that race pace, Harold will move past Project Nemesis and up into P5. I mean, I think that's the biggest danger about Harold, is that I don't think it matters where Harold qualifies. He's always dangerous just because of his strong race pace.
Yes, I know. I'm aware. Like I said.
Oh, have to give me 1 second here. I'm still here.
You're good. We'll continue on as all the drivers, actually suspension will set the fastest lap for right now. And so far Verstappen's still holding that 7 grid play, or that 7 positions gained. And Harold and Barry up 3. Bruiser is up 3 positions as well. And there is a little bit of a gap. There's a 2-second gap between Harold and Barry. And that's kind of where the main break is in the grid. So we'll see if any of these guys are able to catch up. It looks like Nishka is flying up behind Sed. We'll see maybe if he's going to make a move into turn 1. I don't think he's going to be able to. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to. As you can see, the fastest lap is getting set. And we have our first grid penalty of track limits, and it goes to Verstappen, who has 3-second time penalties. And I mean, Canada is such a difficult track when it comes to whenever it comes to penalties and track limits. And I mean, we'll see how it ends up shaking up toward the end of the race, but I mean, getting a penalty out now and out of the way, I guess now you deal with it for the rest of the race and you just kind of see how it goes.
Now, one thing I'm kind of noticing here, you've got quite the interesting thing here, because it seems like none of these.
Oh, and now maybe a little bit of contact. I'm not sure. Oh, Verstappen's able to keep it out of the wall, and CJ, who had that grid pace penalty from qualifying, is now up into P9, and he'll pass Verstappen, and maybe a little bit of barging his way through, but he was able to get the move done, and he moves up a place. And actually, I was going to say John will get a 3-second time penalty. Nishka actually moves into the lead. So we have our first lead change of the race. And it is already basically Nishka versus Sed. And I'm curious to see how this is going to go, because we saw in... Oh, and now we have a caution. I believe that is the Ferrari of Howell. It was. He doesn't have any damage, so he was able to keep it going and will remain green. But this is something that we saw in the first race. It seemed like in the Div1 race, the hard compound was absolutely the way to go, and it seemed like they had the fastest grip. And I think already it's showing. Nishka is already broken DRS ranks. Tinzo will pass Sed, and Tinzo will move up into P2. So it looks like it's wash, rinse, and repeat. The hard compound looks to be the stronger compound here in Canada. I believe that Wildcat is still dealing with some things. And it is 35 laps here around Canada. Canada is roughly a much shorter track. So you end up doing more laps, but it's the same distance. And we'll see if Tinzo can start to climb back. Tinzo already breaking DRS range away from Sed. So maybe the mediums were not the best choice. But maybe it was a little bit, they thought that they were going to be able to get a bigger gap or more speed using the softer compound, but it looks like hards are the way to go. not to say, well, and actually we will see Barry make the move and get around Said, and Barry will move up into third and join his McLaren teammate. Verstappen will get a penalty, another 3-second time penalty, and Guy will get a 3-second time penalty for track limits. And I was going to say that the people on the mediums or the people on the hard compound aren't the only ones making moves. You can see kind of a battle here as Bruiser, Harold, and Nemesis are all fighting for P5. And I mean, Harold, he's climbed his way up. I believe that he has gained, he's gained 2 positions from where he started. Bruiser has gained 4 positions from where he started. Actually, the same thing with Barry. Barry, who's in 3rd place right now, gained 4 positions. So we can see some big gainers who have done a good job of getting through the grid. But I am curious to see how long these medium tires will last. I think the longest we saw someone run on the mediums was about 11 laps. And actually, we'll see Harold go for the pits. Harold will be the 2nd car to pit. I believe that suspension was the very first one after he got damage. But Harold will be the first one to pit, and he is immediately going to swap them for the hard compound. So he will fall down the grid, but more than likely he will be good. And actually, Barry is going to overtake his teammate, and Barry moves up into P2, but he is still 4 seconds behind Nishka. Nishka absolutely doing everything that he needs to do and is remaining comfortably in the lead. I will say, though, that Said actually worked his way back, and he is catching up to Tinzo, as Tinzo didn't have DRS. He actually fell out of DRS range away from his teammate. So now that will leave him open to attack from Said, as Said is chasing him down. Kind of surprised it was maybe a little bit of an early pit. Bookie actually will choose to pit in the Racing Bull as well. Racing Bull is actually team principled by Money, and he was the one who actually won the Div1 race earlier today. And as we said before, congratulations to him to winning, and now he is being his race engineer for the other 2 Racing Bulls, and he is hoping that they will share a great result. And now Howell will retire. I believe that he retires in the pits. Yeah, he will retire in the pits, so that will end his race, but will continue on. And actually, as I was talking, Said slightly falling back away. And now, actually, look at Harold. Harold is actually moving up the grid already once again, using that hard compound. So I'm curious to see when the rest of this grid that took the medium tires, I'm curious to see when they're going to swap. Said will continue on. Bruiser will continue on. Yeah, so far, no one taking the bait. And actually, CJ will get his first time penalty for track limits violations. And that one is his first 3-second time penalty. So we'll see how it all shapes up at the end of the race. And actually now Bruiser is slowly catching up to Said now as well, that he's slowly closing down that gap. And now we have a caution, and did we have a crash? Oh, we had a slide, and it was John DT at the Wall of Champions. I don't know if he crashed in the Wall of Champions. I didn't necessarily see if he did or not, but maybe close enough, but I'm not 100% sure. And I believe welcome back, Wildcat.
I'm back. Whew. So everybody thinks, Formula One driving is changing a diaper, especially when it's number 2, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, everyone thinks that that part is easy until they have to do it themselves. I've heard
Oh
that
yeah.
from multiple people. That multiple people have said that. And so far right now, the conflict that we are looking at here in the race, that we are seeing that there is like a group of 3 drivers here that are on the medium compound, and so far from what we've seen, the hard compound has definitely been the better tire to take. So I'm kind of curious to see when these 3 are going to choose to pit.
That is going to be quite the interest. I'm looking at the tire selections here, and you've got the top 3 on 10 lap old hard tires. And then you've got Said, Bruiser, and Project. Quite interesting, honestly, because I'm pretty sure those mediums at this point are probably the rears have got to be almost at the end of being able to do anything. But these guys are somehow managing to make it look relatively easy.
Crash. Oh no! The prediction came true. We had a crash at the Wall of Champions. Bruiser spun out through the chicane and crashed into the Wall of Champions. Oh, that's rough to see. And actually, as you were talking, Nishka actually got a 3-second time penalty for track limits violations. That is really gonna hurt the longer we go into the race.
I mean, it doesn't seem, looking at Bruiser's car, it doesn't seem like he sustained any damage, so he may have...
Oh, and he spins again. That time he did have damage. He loses. I believe he lost an end plate. Yeah, he lost an end plate, so his mediums must be really dead.
It seems they're possibly dead, or it's possible he may have sustained some wing damage to the rear wing that we can see, as he was losing coming through that corner, so he may have sustained rear damage to be seen. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be going back in the pits now at this point to get some fresh rubber and maybe try to see if he can manage and limp this car home.
And actually, we just saw an interesting decision. Nishka just pitted and slapped on a new fresh set of mediums. So, interesting decision there.
That is interesting, but I think for Nishka, might be intent that I'm gonna go ahead, stick on these mediums, get them fired up and going. You guys can stay playing around on the hards for laps, because he knows he has that 3-second. At this point, he's got to play a strategy that keeps a sizable gap to Barry by the time they emerge and situates itself. So Nishka's got quite the task to do if he wants to be able to come home with the race win today.
He does, and actually Bruiser will be the race's second DNF, and he retired in the pits, so we didn't have a safety car or a virtual safety car. But I will say, Nishka has made up some really nice ground, as actually he will go ahead and go around the outside of CJ, and he will move up into P4. And actually Barry is now going to pit, and he's actually going to do the same thing. But now he pit and he put on the fresh set of mediums. So now the only 2 leaders that haven't pit are Tinzo and CJ.
Absolutely, and Tinzo seems to, if I'm thinking, Tinzo and Barry seem to be in the team game here, as Barry dove pit as he's the lead McLaren on track, and Tinzo stayed out. So if I had to guess, Tinzo's probably going to be coming in this next time around, so they didn't have to do a double stack and then lose time, and then Tinzo lose time, as McLaren's probably looking to secure a double podium today for some solid team points in the constructors fight.
Yeah, I can imagine that probably is what they're thinking. I'm curious to see if Tinzo will immediately pit coming in this lap. I can imagine that it's probably going to be this lap or next lap. And actually, talking about the constructors, I can go ahead and talk about who the current leaders are. The current leader, and actually, there you go. Tenzo actually goes ahead and pits that lap, and Nishka will take over the lead again. Curious to see where Tenzo's going to come out, as CJ will go into pit. And look at Harold. Harold up into P2. Talk about that race pace and that consistency, and he is up into P2. Barry will retain his P3. Tenzo rushes out of the pits. He's going to be racing side by side with Bookie. He's going to be able to get out ahead of Bookie, so he will retain P4 there. But Barry is doing his best to catch down Harold, as now Nishka built an 8-second gap between himself and second place. But sorry, going back to the constructor standings, Aston Martin is actually the current constructors leaders with 95 points. Racing Bulls is second place with 76. Then Red Bull is third place with 64. Then McLaren with 54, and then Mercedes with 50. So if McLaren is able to get a very good result here, whether it's third and fourth or second and third or whatever, that's definitely going to benefit them in the team game. And actually, talking about the McLaren, is Barry going to go for it? He's going on the outside, and oh, I don't think you could have cut that any closer. He almost chopped the front wing off of Harold, but they both get through without incurring any damage, and Barry moves up into P2.
Absolutely. I mean, that was kind of a move that Barry to get done quickly, because those mediums staying behind Harold on the hard tires, those hard tires could outlast the mediums, but Harold does also have on to Barry's 2 on the mediums, so Barry has that amount of extra grip. As you see, he's already open beyond DRS range of Harold. So Harold's now just kind of, I think he's just kind of in a place of, I'm just gonna kind of coast and kind of keep it safe and keep things tidy, because again, you've got Nishka out front with a 3-second time penalty. So Barry's probably going to be trying to do everything he can to catch Nishka and get within that 3 seconds before the end, as Said now incurs a 3-second time penalty. Not going to help his campaign, as he's coming up on fighting Bookie on those fresher hard tires. So this kind of shaping up to be quite the interesting race. And as I said, Div2 seems to have some not as aggressive drivers. They tend to be a patient on the moves they make, and when keep it clean, as we did see. In a sense, Barry pretty much turned the outside of a corner into the inside of the next following corner. So it was kind of a smart play on him by just pretty much just saying, screw it, I'm gonna hang it around the outside here because it's the inside for the following cornering, and just kind of use it to his advantage.
The suspension will retire in the pit, so he is actually our third retirement of the race. And I kind of agree. It was just Div2. This is such a different race versus what the Div 1 race was, just because with the Div 1 race, it was the question was talking about pace, and was really talking about what tire is the right tire to go with. It's drizzling, it's not the best conditions. Do we go hard? Do we go with the intermediates? Like, that was just kind of like the big question. But then we get here to Div 2, and I think that a lot more of the question has been centered around when is the best, well, again, once again, it's when is the best choice to pit. But it's more about pitting to get to the end of the race, more so than pitting to get more pace. So I guess that in that way, that is where it's a little bit different between the two divisions. And I mean, so far, you got to give props to Nishka that despite having the penalty, he has by far had the fastest pace out of anyone on the grid today. And I mean, he's absolutely done his job. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see. I can imagine that they are going to pit again, and it's going to be a 2-stop race. I'm curious to see when, though, because that is a very important factor of when they're going to pit.
Right, and I mean, at this point, I mean, I can't imagine that. I mean, unless you didn't use didn't use this set of mediums in qualifying, if you still have that one fresh set of mediums, I would reckon say pit with 10 laps to go. Pit with 10 laps to go and just full send with the mediums, just bang in qualifying laps till the end. But if you only have a fresh set, if the freshest thing you've got is a fresh set of hard or soft tires, I would honestly, I wouldn't try to stretch the soft tires at this point any farther than say maybe the last 6, maybe 7 laps of the race. But it also kind of depends on the setup and are you able to manage your tires? So at this point, I mean, there's a couple of different options that Nishka and Barry could take to the end here. Granted, I couldn't imagine that these mediums surely be right at the point of probably puncturing a tire before they hit the line. So it's going to be kind of an interesting ending here if Barry does get within that 3-second window of Nishka. So I'm pretty sure Nishka's already kind of probably in his head sorted out and knows what his next move's got.
Yeah, and actually talking about pace, I've actually noticed that over the laps that we've seen, Tenzo has actually been slowly clawing his way to catching up to Harold. And actually, okay, he thought about it. He thought about going for a move in turn 1. He decided against it. But I'm curious just to see when they're going to pit. We saw it in the mediums earlier in the race. They usually went for a lifespan of about 8 to 9 laps. That was kind of the average consensus of what we've seen. We did see a couple drivers go beyond that, but that didn't seem to be the overall average. So they are closing in on that. Harold is actually on 12-lap old hard tires, and I think it's showing there as Tenzo will go around the outside, and we have a McLaren 2-3. But I'm curious to see what Harold is going to do. I can imagine Harold may pit for a new set of medium tires and go to the end, but I mean, who knows? It's just, I feel like every single one of the NA EU races comes down to a question of what each individual driver's strategy is.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'm just kind of thinking here. And Harold is, I mean, he's got 12 laps on those hard tires already. And you've got, what, about 14 laps left to go here? So, give or take, if Harold plays this right, he might be trying to set up something for the last few laps to really be able to put some pressure on within the guys on the podium and possibly be able to split up this McLaren duo. So if Harold has that fresh set of mediums still at his disposal because he didn't use them in qualifying and saved them, he might be able to slap these mediums on and set up a nice undercut toward the end of the race here to be able to work his way back on the podium, scrounge up some good points to keep that championship, to kind of open that championship gap to Sed, who he's still in front of at this point, and Sed doesn't seem to be making any inroads. So there's still some things to be played out here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things still to be played out here, absolutely. And I mean, we still see a couple of moves up and down the grid. And actually, I'll go ahead and look at the penalties. And right now, Nishka has a 3-second time penalty. Sed has a 3-second time penalty as well. And actually, as I was going to say his name, CJ is going to go ahead and pass Bookie and move up into P6. But CJ does have 6 seconds of penalties. Harold will actually go and head a pit as well. He will put the mediums on. So it seems that they decided when they were going to pit, and Harold makes his move. And going back down through the penalties, Verstappen has the most penalties at 15 seconds. Ngai has 6, and then John DT has 12 seconds. Actually, in terms of like the overall amount of drivers we have, actually there are less drivers in here that have penalties than we saw in Div 1.
Absolutely, and Harold actually went for quite the opposite of what I was thinking. He slapped on a fresh set of hard tires along
Oh, he
with
did.
Bookie as well. So maybe they didn't have the faith that the mediums would from that point make it to the end. So they went for the hard tire option, which is quite interesting, but could also pay some dividends toward the end as Nishka peels in the pits for another
Oh.
set of fresh hard tires as Barry follows him in. So Barry's looking to try and stay hooked on Nishka and say, hey, you're not going to undercut me this time. I'm going to follow you and try to work my way back into this gap and
Oh, yeah.
take the top step of the podium by way of your penalty. So Nishka's definitely got some work to do here on his outlap. Got to actually get those hard tires fired up very quickly and get gone.
Yeah, but I will say, though, crucially enough, Nishka got out of the pits just ahead of Said. And, oh, Barry's going to get a 3-second time penalty. So that is going to hurt Barry's chance. So right now, Tinzo leads the race. He's 7 seconds ahead of Nishka. But like I said, crucially, Nishka got out ahead of Said. And using that fresh rubber, that is definitely going to benefit him being in ahead of someone with the older tires. So now he can completely focus on trying to chase down the other McLaren in Tinzo. And I think one other driver I'm keeping my eye on is definitely Harold, because out of that lead group, you have Nishka, Barry, and Harold, who have the freshest tires. So I'm curious to see how that is going to look, because I can imagine that Harold, just like Nishka and Barry, are going to pick up their pace now that they have fresh tires.
Absolutely. And Harold right now is currently trailing right behind the governor, looking to make that move, with the governor being on 13-lap-old hard tires. On may as well say the freshest hard tires you can get, to an extent, with the exception of Barry and Nishka out near the sharper end of the grid here. Harold's looking to run through these guys so he can get back up there and try to maybe be a problem by the time Tinzo comes out and does pit. Harold could actually quite possibly split up this McLaren pair and be able to possibly he might actually work his way back into a net P3 by the end.
And just like that, he is going to go ahead and make the move and get past the governor. And I mean, he's right behind Nemesis, so he is still right there as Harold is slowly making his way up the grid. He does have a big task ahead of him once he gets by Nemesis. If he wants to try and chase down Barry, Verstappen will get another 3-second time penalty. Man, I'm curious to see. Barry has been slowly gaining. He's now within a second of Said, so I'm curious to see how much time Barry is going to keep gaining, because Said on those 11-lap old hard tires, I mean, eventually even the hard tires, they do end up starting to hurt, and you can start to notice that they don't have as much grip. So I'm curious to see when Said is going to pit, and I'm curious to see when Tinzo is going to pit. So actually now Barry has closed down to less than half a second. He's definitely got DRS. So now we're going to see if he's going to go for the move. He is going to go for the move, and he roars around the outside. That wasn't even a challenge, as he goes right around the outside. And that actually convinces Said to go ahead and pit. So Said will go ahead and pit. I can imagine he may switch to the mediums. And it looks like he is. Yes, he is going to go ahead and switch to the mediums. So we'll see where he comes out, and we'll see.
It now releases Harold to be able to chase down Barry, and Tinzo having not. Ooh!
Oh wait, we have a safety car. So now, I believe it was CJ. He was on the front stretch, so he must have crashed on track. Wasn't able to catch it with the camera, but he is our fourth retirement of the race. Both kick Saubers are out. And I'm curious to see how this is going to work. Tenzo is actually coming down through the third sector. Nishka is basically right on his tail, Barry as well. But I mean, if you're Tenzo, you got to take the opportunity and you got to pit right now. You got to take advantage of the free pit stop.
Oh, absolutely. And now this is probably something, honestly, that Nishka did not want, nor Barry in this situation, because now you're going to have Harold is on basically the same hard tires as you. With both of you having 3-second time penalty, they've got to find some magic here, because if not, Harold will quite literally take the win just based on the penalties if he hangs with them to the end. And that's all he really has to do. He doesn't even have to fight them and take the position from them, unless he so desired that, hey, I'll take the position too. Why not? But, I mean, this is quite interesting now, as Enzo does manage to make it out the pits ahead of Harold, which, from a team standpoint, that could actually prevent Harold from being a thorn in Nishka and Barry's side. If Tenzo decides to play the team game and he came out fresh mediums, he could quite literally be a teammate to Barry and say, nope, I'm going to hold this guy up behind me. You two ride off in the sunset. You deal with him. And that's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I was reacting to. I was reacting to the fact that Tenzo got out of the pits ahead of Harold, and that's definitely going to benefit him a lot. And actually, I believe it was CJ. I am sad to report that the Wall of Champions did, in fact, claim him and his rear suspension system. So that is actually 2 drivers today in the Div2 race that have been claimed by the Wall of Champions, and that's 3 total for NA and EU. We had 1 that crashed into the Wall of Champions and did the Div1 race. So we got a very interesting predicament here, as Nishka and Barry both on the hard compound, and then you have Tenzo, who's on the basically the freshest mediums you can get. I mean, with a safety car, you don't burn up the tires obviously as much, but then you have Harold, who's been arguably the most consistent driver this whole time, and he doesn't have any penalties. And then you have Ced kind of lurking behind them as well. I mean, I agree with something that you said earlier, is that Nishka and Barry are going to have to absolutely just pull out all the stops and just go because of having those 3-second penalties. And this is when having those penalties really comes back to bite you.
Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, I mean, they're both on hard. They're still somewhat in a fresher window compared to, you know, the hard tires they had previously. But when you got somebody like Tenzo in the back, it could be a game of Tenzo plays a team game of, hey, I'm gonna hold Harold off so Barry can, you know, not position at this point. Or they could make the decision of Barry let Tenzo through off the restart to go hunt down Nishka and on those fresher mediums and win here today. So I mean, there's a couple of different ways they could kind of go about it perspective, but I'm just kind of interested to see how this one's actually. With the hard tire, we take a few laps to actually get some heat into those tires. So with them getting cooled down because of the safety car, that medium is going to be hot and ready to go in short order. Not as much as the softs, but a lot quicker than the hard tires. So if these guys don't get that tire fired up quickly off the start, they are going to be out in no man's land and not knowing.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see. John DT actually did retire, so he is our 5th retirement of the race. He retired in the pit, so it won't extend the safety car as we wait for the 3 drivers to go through. And actually, we see surprisingly 3 drivers are on the soft tires. They pit during the safety car, and they're on the soft tires now. So we'll see how that ends up shaping up. But Div 1 was absolute cinema down to the end. And it looks like Div2 actually might end up being the same thing. It looks like Div2 might also come down to the very last lap, because I am just I don't know about you, Wildcat. I am so curious to see how this is gonna pan out. As now safety car is in this lap, so Nishka will take control. The race is basically in his and Barry's arms, as the race is gonna come down to how fast are they. It's either gonna be a Red Bull win, Nishka's first win of the season. It's gonna be, or it could be a McLaren 1-2, or Harold can somehow crawl in and win based off of penalties. So I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen.
Absolutely, and I mean, this is gonna be. I'm gonna give you the best corner that I can. We just need one racing lap.
And talking about the racing lap, we are underway as Nishka will lead them by. He didn't get that great of a head start, as now, oh, there's a Williams that goes wide. I believe that was the lapped Williams of Dr. J. I thought that was a car crashing, but Nishka will retain the lead. And we'll see, as now the McLaren of Tinzo, he's doing his absolute best to remain back. Bookie will get a 3-second time penalty. Harold actually fell back from the restart, so he falls back into 6th place. He may still be a factor. The governor will get his first time penalty of the race. So far now, the only person in the top 5 that does not have a penalty is Tinzo. And he is actually right on the back of his teammate's car with 6 laps to go. This is going to be a crazy finish.
Absolutely, and at this point, Tinzo and Harold, they're one warning away from collecting a time penalty of their own. So right about now, I mean, they're in that window where they both could honestly come out with Tinzo winning this and Harold possibly ending up on the podium as well, just based on time penalties of drivers. So I mean, they've gotta be a little bit conservative, but at the same point, they've got on it here to be able to make this happen.
And actually talking about Harold, I mean, the governor does have a penalty, but he did pass Harold. So Harold falling down to P7. He just must not have had a very good restart. Nishka is still holding on to the lead, but Barry and Tinzo are right behind him. Sed as well is right there, but having a penalty. Sed is a little bit maybe too far out of the range to win it, but I'm curious to see where this is all going to set. And I agree that I do think that Harold in 7th does still have a chance that he could getting a podium, but it's just really going to be, it's going to be close. It's going to be very, very close. And it's really going to come down to if Harold can maybe get a little bit back into the fight and have that pace that he's had all race. But I mean, looking at the front, these front 4 are all next to you. Now the governor actually passes Bookie and moves up into P5, and it looks like he's trying to chase down Sed now. So I don't know, maybe Div2 is just going crazy, and let's just throw the governor into the mix for race win possibly. I mean,
absolutely. And I mean, I was just kind of looking, and actually from Bookie backward, they're all outside that 3-second gap of Nishka and Barry. But from the governor up, they're within the 3-second window. So Harold, if he wants to try and get back in that window, have a shot at a podium, he has got to get around Bookie quickly and get back up on the back of Governor, and even then still has to make the move on Governor to get to even further better his chances. Tinzo right about now, Tinzo's sitting in the perfect position to absolutely come off with a shocking win, and after keeping it so clean, whereas Barry has something to worry about here. Barry's got 5 warnings, 1 more, and he's going to collect the second 3-second time penalty. Going to help him, as that would make him after working so hard to get where he is now. So this is going to be quite the finish. Top four do not seem to be letting up off of each other at all.
Yeah, no, they are not. And actually looking at the looking at the leaderboard and looking at the time to leader instead of the interval, that Tenzo is right now a 1.5 seconds behind Nishka. So if Barry gets that penalty, he would fall almost down to P9, just ahead of Verstappen. But right now, you know that Nishka here with about 2.5 laps to go, he now just around the 2-second mark ahead of Tenzo. So, I mean, right now it is either up to Nishka if he can get that 3-second gap, or it comes down to Tenzo as he is trying his absolute best. And actually, Nishka does break DRS away from Barry, so maybe that is Nishka's opportunity. But that may hurt. And now they play the team game. And now, oh my goodness, they go around. There's contact. Both Barry and Ced are side by side. And now, oh my word, they're going through. There's more contact between Barry and Ced. Now they're still side by side going through sector 1. Ced is able to secure it. But all that fighting, Barry gets the penalty. But all that fighting now puts Tenzo down to a 2-second gap with 2 laps to go. It comes down to between Nishka and Tenzo. Can Nishka get just a little bit more ahead of Tenzo, or is Tenzo going to win this race?
Absolutely. And I mean, at this point, I mean, Tenzo's not even in the. You still got Ced and Barry, and now the Governor, all within DRS range of each other. And if Ced puts more pressure on Tenzo and keeps pressing that button, it's going to open that gap, which is there for Nishka to be able to hang on to this. At 3.2 is the gap. Nishka is doing exactly what he needs to do today to take this win home for the Red Bull team, which will make his team principal very, very happy. So, I mean, but this is quite the battle that's been forming here at the front end for Div2 today.
And actually, if anything is going to help him, I think that may have done it. As actually Tenzo, or I thought he was going to let Barry back through, but Ced actually passed Tenzo. So Tenzo remaining where he is, he could still get second place away from Ced. But if Nishka can maintain this lead, he will win despite the penalties. And you know that Nishka felt good going into this. And I mean, he showed it the whole way through. And now he's half a lap away from winning. And so far, even looking through the times, it looks like it is going to be a Nishka win. I don't want to say it too soon, but so far, all signs are pointing there. And I mean, you can still see fighting going up and down the grid. As now we go through the last turn through the Wall of Champions, and he has done it. Nishka has brought home a Grand Prix win for Red Bull here in Canada. And now with all the other drivers coming through, and now Tenzo will get second place. Now it's the Governor, Harold, everyone is fighting around. Harold actually ends up with a P3. The Governor moves into P4, Nemesis P5, Ced falls to P6, Barry falls down to P7, Bookie in P8, Verstappen will finish in P9, Ngai will be next, I believe. Yes, he will be in P10. Dr. J finishes in P11. Koopa will finish in P12. What a crazy finish.
This has been a crazy finish. Doesn't even speak to it. I mean, this has been quite the race. I mean, there was battles from the very onset, and so I mean, these guys. It's been quite a day, and I'm sure Ishka is absolutely jumping for joy that he was able to do what he needed to do. That little bit of magic and luck that helped him bring home the win near the end with that battle going behind him.
Yeah, I mean, he felt good. I mean, we talked to him a little bit before the race. He said he felt good, and I think it just showed how confident he felt as he wins his first North American Grand Prix in this season, and absolutely a special one as he was able to overcome the difficulties, overcome the penalties, and was able to take home the win. Nishka will be your race winner with Tenzo in P2, Harold P3, Governor P4, Nemesis P5, Sed P6, Barry P7, Bookie P8, Verstappen P9, Ngai P10, Dr. J P11, Mr. Koopa P12, John DT 13th, CJ 14th, Suspension 15th, Bruiser 16th, and then Howell coming in 17th place. I mean, Div 1 was an interesting race in and of itself. I don't know if necessarily I was prepared for both races today. We're going to be down to the wire and so close.
That was a close race. I was watching as I was racing, like just watching the leaderboard change substantially. I don't know what happened at the start.
This guy was over here pulling a Max. He's living up to the Verstappen name, pulling a Max Verstappen, watching the race while racing. All right.
I really don't.
So actually, we do have famously, Harold does not do interviews, so at least we have our race winner and our second place, both Nishka and Tenzo. Nishka, we'll start with you. Congratulations on the win. How are you feeling right now?
I feel relieved. I feel relieved more than anything, but I'm really happy as well. Finally get the win. But yeah, no, I feel relieved. I've been having a bit of bad luck lately, so I'm really happy. I thought it was happening again when the safety car came out. I thought the bad luck was happening again.
Yeah, I was gonna say you probably were not excited to see that safety car, and probably something you also weren't excited about was the fact that you had to deal with that penalty. I can imagine. What did you feel, because you had roughly a second and a half ahead of Tenzo, and then there was a whole battle that happened behind you, and then that gave you the gap to be able to win. How did you feel? I don't know. Did you see the gap form on the leaderboard, or what did you feel when you saw that?
Yeah, I did see the gap form. I was like, coming down to the second last lap, I thought, oh, I'll have to pull out probably another 8/10. But I knew the medium tyres, they're rubbish after like 3 laps. Like you've probably seen it in the first stint. The hard tyre just started taking over pretty quickly. So I thought, as long as I can hold on for that first 2 laps after the safety car, I felt confident I could still try and pull the gap. So yeah, obviously the battling behind made it a lot more comfortable, but yeah. It was still stressful for a little bit there.
I can imagine that it definitely still was stressful, but I can imagine that you are still very happy to be a race winner, your first race win here in the Div 2 of North America EU. Before I let you go and celebrate, is there anyone that you would like to shout out or dedicate this race to?
I'll just shout out my TP Wildcat. Yeah, thanks for giving me opportunity in Red Bull. Also Meraki, I've done a little bit of practice with Meraki every now and again. So yeah, so shout out for him. And then my teammate SJ. We always in the VC, we always help each other set up and stuff like that. So yeah, my teammate SJ.
And actually, you will be very, very proud to hear that your teammate actually finished in P4 today. So it was a good result, not only for you, but for your teammate as well, and for Red Bull. And I will let you go, and congratulations on the race win.
Thanks very much, Game On. Thanks for the comps.
You're welcome. And now we head to second place. Tenzo, how are you feeling right now after that race?
Been very good. My first podium actually after 3 races, so very exciting.
Yeah, that is very exciting indeed, and definitely congratulations to you on that. And I think I definitely got to ask you, because I don't know necessarily if it was a team switch, like if it was planned, but how stressed did you get when you passed your teammate to get into second place and all of a sudden you see a Mercedes roaring around the outside?
I mean, I saw Barry trying to indicate. I didn't see it quite well, but that when I did, I just saw Mercedes right next to me, and I was kind of worried, but it ended up well, but it kind of ruined my chances to get P1, so that's kind of unfortunate there.
It was a little unfortunate that did happen, but I will say that it was still a good result overall for you and Barry. But I mean, as you said, this is your third race and you have your very first podium. I mean, what does that mean for you?
I mean, it just shows that I'm capable of getting a P1 very soon.
Any predictions? Any predictions on what track you're feeling?
I mean, I'm not sure on top of my head right now, but we'll have to see.
Well, we'll see indeed. It was definitely fantastic to watch you and Nishka and everyone else battling. It was great. It was obviously good for commentating, but it's really good to see that you guys are all doing really well in racing. And the same thing to Nishka. Is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out or dedicate this race to?
I mean, I want to give a big shout out to Ilarian. He helped me with strategies, stuff like that, and a big thanks to Barry for being the TP and letting me in the clan.
Good job to Illyrian indeed. If it makes you happy as well, he was in the chat earlier and he was watching you race, so I imagine that he's definitely proud. I will let you go ahead and celebrate or talk, but congratulations on the second place.
Thank you.
And that is going to go ahead and wrap it up here for Division 2 of North America EU here in Canada. Wow. I don't know. I mean, Wildcat, you were racing in the first one. I was commentating, but I don't know if I was necessarily expecting both races to be this exciting. I think just Canada needs to be a race every season just because of the crazy stuff that happens. But what were your thoughts on this?
Canada, a race every season? I could honestly handle Canada. Canada, no, it's not a track, right? So it's that's not even a track. Canada every season. No. But I mean, it is nice to see that for two divisions we had quite the exciting. So I'm kind of pleased. It's going to be quite interesting at this point. So I'll be what else may come from both divisions, honestly. And if Division 2 is putting down down.
You are glitching a little bit, Wildcat. I think Discord might not be happy like it wasn't with me. But next week is Baku, and Baku is going to be very interesting to see because I already know that there's a little bit of chippiness between some of the drivers. So I'm going to be very interested to see what's going to happen in Baku. But I hope to see you there as well for Div2. But that is going to wrap it up for us here. For Div2 in Canada and just overall for North America this week. I appreciate everyone who came in and watched and supported their drivers or their teams. We appreciate all of your all the viewing, all the support. We absolutely love the fact that you guys want to support us, and we can say from for everyone here at Rush, we are absolutely thrilled to have you guys all here day in and day out. Last but not least, want to say Thank you to our sponsors, Sim Racing Center, Sim Lab, Pagnian Simulation Experts, and AI369. We hope to see you guys here next week as we take on the streets of Baku and we see if it's going to be as crazy as Canada. Take care, have a great day or a great night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you guys next week.